How many of us became frightened by news of the Skirball fire? And how many of us were prepared to evacuate or did evacuate because of the fire last fall? Let me see a show of hands. How many of us had friends or family affected by the Thomas fire in Ojai and Santa Barbara? Or the fires that were in Anaheim Hills, or Santa Clarita, Burbank, or Idlewild, Shasta, Yosemite, or Clear Lake? The Santa Rosa fire destroyed lives and homes and neighborhoods, and our beloved Camp Newman, which fortunately is temporarily relocated to Cal State Maritime in Vallejo. The fires burnt houses, charred wilderness areas, upended lives, created havoc. Locally, we saw the soot, and we felt and tasted the ash, which darkened our skies, watered our eyes, and caused breathing issues. Many of us left our homes, called relatives. Others prepared belongings in case of evacuation, forced to choose what was most important to us that would fit just in the trunk. And none of us was left without stress or anxiety. How fortunate we were that in our area, the vast majority of homes, condos, apartments were left unharmed. Some of our fellow congregants were upended for months. Our first responders have truly been amazing. Joel Kareth and I knew what our holy obligation was. We were at temple at the break of dawn to perform the sad mitzvah of evacuating the Torah scrolls. That snapshot will always be on my mind. We hugged the scrolls, parceled them out, and departed. Have Torah, will travel. That moment echoed our people's history of exile and persecution as we left burning synagogues with only our most precious possession. Guarding the Torah scrolls had great spiritual power, reminding me that our people has survived great challenges over the centuries. And yet, none of us were in control of these events. Everything was beyond us. Who indeed by fire? It's not only fire that has been beyond our control this year. Hurricane Harvey hit Houston with flooding in its wake. Hurricane Irma destroyed Barbuda, while a week later Hurricane Maria sent a path of destruction through Dominica and Puerto Rico. Hawaii and Guatemala were besieged by volcanoes, and we need not turn on the news to hear what's going on with Hurricane Florence and the resulting flooding. Hawaiians were stunned in January to receive an emergency cell phone alert warning them that a ballistic missile was heading toward the islands. After 38 minutes of fear, the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency sent out another mass alert informing people that their lives were not in danger, that it was merely human error. Anxiety and not knowing what to do caused a lot of fear and anger. The Hawaii incident called up those old residual feelings of absolute devastation, of a fatalistic reflex that says, this is not survivable, so why am I even bothering to think about it? But we Jews, we do think about disaster. What's a famous Jewish telegram? Start worrying. Details to follow. We have anxieties, and our history has told us to prepare for the worst while we hope for the best. And that's why every Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we hear a prayer never said the other 363 days of the year, Unatana Tokef. It comes to us from the 6th or 7th century, written by two great poets, Yanai and Kalir, and was popularized during the 11th century Crusades. Why did it become so well-liked that it has lasted for over 1,300 years? The Middle Ages were a time when things were beyond the control of the Jewish community, a pre-modern world where death and destruction were all around. Who shall live and who shall die? Who by fire and who by water? We have been offering these words as a human response to the random catastrophes beyond our control, the misfortunes and difficulties we experience or read about, which occur on a daily basis. We want to be in control of our lives, of our destiny. We want to be the ones in charge. We want to bark the orders. We want to set the pace. We want to steer life's ship and be assured of our daily routine. We want to make sure the crease is in the right place, the lines in the carpet match just so, the picture frame is not crooked on the wall. But we don't determine the judge's verdict or tell the radiologist what to find or know the outcome of the game or exactly how the Dow Jones is going to do. Sometimes that frays our sense of security. Whether it's a burst pipe in the yard or a devastating earthquake which shakes the ground beneath our feet, this is a day to recognize we are not in control. No matter what our mood or our feelings, no matter what the music or the state of the world, whether the issue is our family, our friends, current politics, or our portfolio, a sense of nervousness and anxiety is right there. When we listen to the music of the Unetana Tokef and its dark overtones in the morning, the rumble in our hearts may begin. The eerie atmosphere created underscores the other seriousness of the text itself. Who shall live and who shall die? Who shall see ripe age and who will not? Who shall be secure and who shall be driven? On it goes, asking the most philosophical and practical questions which confront us. Can it truly be that all is predetermined? How do the words of this prayer match up with our own human experience? Is it indeed rational for us to still believe that God fixes our own fates? And so we declare through the Unetana Tokef that this day is holy, set apart, unlike any other, for it makes us confront the camouflage with which we cover our lives and strip it away to its bare essence. This prayer bothers us because it is just so real. Unetana Tokef presents us with the laundry list of ways that people actually do die. And it really needles us because unlike issues of faith and religious mystery, it's the most in-your-face prayer I know. People do die, and more will do so in the year to come. Some will pass away after long and fruitful lives. But we also know that floods will damage, and terrorists will maim, and the unpredictable will take innocent lives, and on and on. Unetana Tokef is a difficult and harsh prayer. It makes us feel like it's all been set up in advance, that we're just walking through the motions as life passes by. We struggle with its message, and some of us get angry when we read it. These words force us to confront reality with no intermediary, no curtain between the audience and the stage. It's right before our eyes. Life can change in a moment, in an instant, in the blink of an eye. And yet I'm not one who believes in an all-powerful manipulator who controls our lives in a way that defies credulity and morality. I actually prefer the poetic translation in the British Reform Machzor prayer book, which places the emphasis on each of us and not the supernatural. On Rosh Hashanah, we consider how judgment is formed. On Yom Kippur, we consider how judgment is sealed for all who pass away and all who are born, for all who live and all who die. If we take its message to heart, we can't listen to the beginning of the prayer only and not read its conclusion. Let's assume for a minute that things are truly beyond our control. Our lives are rocked by trial and tribulation. We recognize that life is fragile. The question then becomes, how do I respond? Our actions do have consequences, and we are the ones who are responsible for our character. The end of this poetic odyssey gives us the prescription. Uteshuva, utefila, utzedaka, ma'avirin et roa hagazera. We avert the severity of the decree through our deeds of justice, our acts of loving kindness, and words of song and prayer. It may not be in our hands to conquer the randomness of the universe, but our spirits are designed to determine the attitude we need to persevere. We can choose each and every day how to cope with what life brings us. Rabbi Aaron Pankin, the late president of Hebrew Union College, taught that our actions, the teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah that we do, help us live in such a way that when we must suffer life's darkest depredations, we will have ways of coping with them. Our actions do not change the ultimate outcome one iota, but they can alter our attitude, bolster our ability to withstand challenges, help us handle unavoidable misfortunes better, and see life's value amidst chaos and dismay. Rabbi Pankin was a pilot who flew small airplanes. And just a few months ago, when he and his instructor were flying, the airplane crashed. The instructor walked away, and Rabbi Pankin was killed. A terrible tragedy indeed. When Edith Eva Egger was 16, she was a prisoner at Auschwitz. It's not the life the Hungarian Olympic gymnastics team member had planned. Joseph Mengele, the horrible Auschwitz physician, chose for Egger to live and sent her parents to die. On that very day, he made her dance the Blue Danube for his entertainment. Although a prisoner, Egger infused that dance with all the joy that dancing always brought her. Mengele gave her a loaf of bread as a reward for her bravura performance. Egger shared the loaf with the other prisoners, and later, a girl who had eaten that bread chose to help Egger, saving her life as a result. Behind barbed wire, an electrified fence, and with brutal Nazis all around, her ability to choose gave Egger the strength to survive. Her mother had taught her, just remember, no one can take away from you what you've put in your mind. After the war, even though she was a therapist, she repressed these memories to spare others the pain of her experience. Racked with guilt for having survived when so many perished, Egger watched her marriage crumble. Another choice confronted her: stay mired in the past or face it and learn to live in the present. So she returned to Auschwitz to confront her past and grew from that experience to face life in a new way. Just remember, no one can take away from you what you've put in your mind. We can't choose to vanish the dark, but we can choose to kindle the light. In life, there is always a choice. Edith Eva Egger had a streak of resilience that helped her overcome the horrifying cards she was dealt. So did Rabbi Brad Artson, who was diagnosed at 14 of having a terminal, inoperable cancer. He had endured 2 years of terrible and silent pain and hid it from his family. When he revealed what had been going on, they rushed him to a hospital, and thank God one clever dermatologist noticed some bumps on his arm. The doctor determined the cause, and within 2 weeks, he was undergoing chemo and radiation therapy. The assessment that cancer was terminal and inoperable turned out to be false. But the pain and fear he felt were not. Brad wrote, "I would gladly never have confronted that trial, never have suffered that anguish. But I also know that I could not be the rabbi, counselor, husband, father, or friend I am today were it not for the lessons I learned from my own brush with death and pain. If we, like Rabbi Artson, allow our challenges, those beyond our control experiences, to teach us lessons, we can gain an appreciation for people in our lives, gratitude for what still works, and compassion for those in pain. Fate is the ordained path of our lives, the stuff that happens beyond our power to know and to control. Destiny is how we respond to what life offers by the choices we make. One night, the Baal Shem Tov was walking home and bumped into Shloimele, the Wasserschlepper, who was carrying 2 buckets of water. So he asked the water carrier, "How are things with you, Shloimele?" "Not so good," Shloimele said. "At my age, I still have to schlep buckets of water up the hill to support myself." The next day, as the Baal Shem Tov walked to shul for Yom Kippur, he again saw Shloimele. Shloimeh, how are things with you, he asked. Shloimeh responded, Rebbe, I can't complain. If at my age I can still schlep buckets of water up the hill, I'm thankful to God. The Baal Shem Tov smiled. He knew there were two teachings, each of which has their place. We read Unetana Tokef and think about how our fate is determined, but how we turn our fate into destiny can vary each and every day. One summer, a young college student afflicted with a muscular leg paralysis decided to go door to door selling books. He began by visiting the home of the college president. The president's wife told him they didn't need any books. As he turned to leave, she saw him limping. She called out to him and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you had a disability." The young man, who hated pity, indicated he was rather disturbed by her remark. The woman then realized she probably had said the wrong thing and hastened to add, "I didn't intend to imply anything but admiration. But tell me, doesn't being disabled color your life?" The young man answered, "Yes, but thank God I can choose the color." Our main task in life, my friends, is to choose the best color. Amen.